Hey everyone, sorry I couldn't be here today. We were going to continue on though, even in my absence. Hopefully you guys are doing good today. Can't talk about current events via video, but hopefully you're still paying attention to the news, paying attention to all the stuff that's going on, because what we're talking about today is being discussed. If you look at what's going on in the news, look at the January 6th commission, all the stuff that's going on with the subpoenas, all that stuff, what happened on the day they counted the electoral votes last year. So what we're dealing with today is the lead up to all of that stuff, how we choose a president. So keep in mind what happened, keep in mind what is going to happen, and hopefully this will all make sense. How do we choose a president in this country? So we'll start with, basically just this idea of the whole process is not just you go to the polls, you vote, boom, president is announced all in one day. It's not. It is a two-step process because presidents don't just run. What they do is they have to get nominated first. So you have to run in an election just to get the nomination of your party. Then you have to run in another election to get elected president of the United States. So how does all this work? Well, first of all, step one, every state has a caucus or a primary. And basically, they go to and they run in each of these states. Iowa is always first. New Hampshire is always second. We'll talk more about caucuses and primaries when we get to that unit. But this is the process. In a primary, you do this. You run against other people of your party. So in this last election, you had Biden running against all the other Democrats. You had Trump running against all the other Republicans just to secure the nomination. So they run all of these things. And when what they're running for basically is to win delegates. And delegates basically then will have to go to this convention and they all vote. Obviously the Democrats were in Milwaukee, Republicans were in Charlotte, kind of, because of COVID. Those were kind of screwed up. But so going through this whole thing, running in each of the 50 states just to get the nomination is step one. If you get enough delegates at the convention, then you become the nominee of your party. And they announce that at the convention. So if you're looking for a visual way to represent this, and we go back to this last election. In January of 2020, basically this primary and caucus season starts. So they're running around, all the Democrats are running around, looking for TV time. They're looking for exposure. I want to get my face out there because I want to be the nominee of my party. All the Republicans are doing the same thing. And they go through this process. It starts Iowa, and then goes to New Hampshire, and South Carolina, Nevada, all of these states. And that basically goes through the beginning of June. And this idea of once you get the nomination of your party, then you basically start running, in September, October, but even before that, because the way this system works, and again, I'll detail this a little bit more later, but you're going to know who the nominee is well before the convention. Well before the convention. It always happens this way because we know we have a front runner. We know we have somebody who has gotten the most votes for delegates to the convention. So they essentially start running way in advance of the national convention. But the national convention, where they all meet, all these delegates come in, they cast their votes for their nominee. Then you get an official nominee for your party. Then you start running against the other party. And that goes, September, October, obviously November, the first Monday in November, first Tuesday after the first Monday in November is Election Day. Wait a minute, what does that mean? First Tuesday after the first Monday. Hold that thought. Then, so we have that election, and the electoral votes are counted early in December. Then, and the inauguration is on January 20th. So this is what's going to go, this whole process is going to go on in 2024, just like it's been going on throughout American history. So what does this even mean? So the Electoral College, and this is, and I've said this before in class, but the two things that when I talk to adults that they don't understand, the two things most cited, one is the Electoral College, the other is impeachment. Most people know what impeachment means. They think it's, well, he's kicked out of office, we've had this discussion. It's not. The Electoral College is the other thing. How does this thing work and why do we even have it? One of the peculiar things about the American way of doing things, if you think about all of the stuff that we do that's peculiar, this is one of the biggest. I don't understand why we still do it. I understand why they put it in there. We're going to have an assignment later that I'm going to have you guys look at, why it was put in. Do we still need it? Is it one of these things that is so uniquely American that we have to keep doing it, or is there a better way? So what does it mean? Well, first of all, the Electoral College. When you think of the word college, what comes to mind? I guess what comes to mind is a college. You know, we're going to graduate. Some of us are going to go to college. Well, the word college just means a gathering of like-minded people to discuss. The Electoral College is not a place. It is a meeting. So let go of this idea of, oh, there is this, with buildings and, let's do this. Let's do this experiment. If there were a place, a college in the scheme of our psyche here that has buildings and a place and a mascot and a football team, what would the logo be if there was an actual electoral college? You're thinking, all right, the Electoral College, what their job is to elect the president, but what would it look like? Okay, and this is me. This is my attempt at humor. But I'm thinking, if it were a place, if it were like a college, like we know, what would the mascot be? I had an idea, and so I came up with this: the Electoral College Screaming Eagles. Obviously, eagle, bald eagle. Printing the popular vote matters since 1789. All right, that's my attempt at humor. It's not a place. But if it were, I'd like to think that they would choose my mascot, and we'll go with that. So how does it work? And so keeping with this theme of a college and sports, let me give you a sports analogy as to how all of this works. You have this primary season, caucus season, and then you have the election. So if you're looking at this sports analogy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Final Four, basketball. Really, the only time to watch college basketball is Final Four. Don't send me hate emails, but it is. So we look at the election like this. You have a bracket. You have like one half of the bracket is going to be Democrats. The other half of the bracket is going to be Republicans. So all of the Democrats in the primary and caucus season run against other Democrats. All the Republicans run against other Republicans to win their bracket. That's the primary. So we know in this last election that Joe Biden won the Democratic bracket, and we know that Trump won the Republican bracket. So they run against each other in the final, or the general election. And that's the one where we go vote in November. So why all these things that happen? So election day is the Tuesday after the first Monday in years evenly divisible by 4. Don't memorize that, all right? I know you guys are looking at this going, I got to write that down. No, you don't. What is the Tuesday after the first Monday? This idea that there's one day that the election cannot be, and that is November 1st. And so we look at this, why November, first of all? Why Tuesday? Why not any other day of the week? And then why the Tuesday after the first Monday? So if it's after the first Monday, if November 1st is a Tuesday, you cannot have the election on that Tuesday because you haven't had a Monday yet. So if Tuesday falls on the first day you can have that election would be the 8th because you have to have a Monday first. So why all this nonsense? Well, plain and simple, it has to do with the agrarian nature of our country at that time and religion. Obviously, back in 1789, you couldn't just, get in the car, drive to the polling place, pull a lever, and go. You had to travel. So November was after the harvest. It was before the winter freeze, so that was a good time to do it. People aren't working on the farms. They've got some time to do this. Tuesday, normally people traveled to town to get supplies on a Monday. They couldn't go on a Sunday because you got to go to church on Sunday. So they'd hitch up the wagon, go on Monday, buy their stuff, spend the night, and then they could get up early Tuesday morning, vote, and then get the wagons back home. That's why Tuesday. It was the most convenient time of the week in 1789. Now, why Tuesday after the first Monday? This goes back to the fact that it cannot be on November 1st. The reason it cannot be on November 1st is because that is a religious holiday, all right? It is All Saints' Day. And in traditional Catholicism, what that means is the saints came back on November 1st to rid the planet or rid the country of the evil spirits. And so the evil spirits are like, okay, November 1st, they're going to shoo us all away. So we've got one last night of debauchery. We've got one last night to wreak havoc as goblins and demons before the saints come down and make us go away. Well, what is the day before All Saints' Day? What is the day before November 1st? All Hallows' Eve. That's Halloween, guys. That's where we got Halloween. And so this idea of Halloween is based on Roman Catholic teaching of All Saints' Day. Take that with a grain of salt. There's a whole lot of reasons why people celebrate Halloween. But anyway, that's kind of why all that happens. I'm not going to ask you that on a test. Just understand that it's a Tuesday after the first Monday of November. So what happens is each state holds their own elections. You have 51 different elections going on, all 50 states plus the District of Columbia. People go, for example, in Kansas, we go to the ballot box on this Tuesday, vote for our presidential candidate. There's also, that is a federal election day. So you're also voting for senators. You're also voting for House of Representatives. You might be voting for your governor, your city council. So that is a huge day every 4 years. That's what's going on. So 51 different elections, and they're all counted on that night. And if you ever watch the CNN coverage or the Fox News coverage or the MSNBC coverage, they're all up there and they've got the big board and the touch screen, and we predict that so and so wins this state. Well, what they're looking at is who gets the most votes in a state. And so now there's a couple of math terms: plurality versus majority. Because in the election, when you are running in each of these 51 different elections, whoever gets the most votes wins. That may not be a majority. It may be a plurality. Now, plurality means that there's going to be more than two. What happens if there are three candidates, right? And this third independent or Green Party or Libertarian Party or whatever party is running also wins votes. And the Republican candidate, say, gets 49.9% of the vote because 0.1% of the vote went to this Green Party candidate. Well, that Republican doesn't have a majority, right? He has 49.9. But he has more than anybody else because the only other option would be 49.8. There's going to be this math involved. But whoever gets the most votes, given a third party run, doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So whoever wins a plurality wins all of that state's electoral votes. So who are these? What is this electoral vote? Well, each state gets the number of electors that match up with the number of representatives and the number of senators that they have. So there are 2 senators and then House of Representatives based on your population, but it's not those people. I'll explain here in a second. So how does that number get assigned? That's how. So if you're looking at the numbers in this last election, obviously the biggest states are California, Texas, New York, and Florida. And so what happens is if you win the plurality of votes in that state, you win 100% of those electors. So you can win 51% of the vote in California, but you get 100% of those electors, 55. That's why we have, and we'll watch a video later as to how you can lose the popular vote but win the Electoral College. The math is just weird. And we're also going to take a look at, do we need to fix this? Because it has happened twice in the last 4 elections. So that's something that we're going to have to take a look at. But this is how this works. Maine and Nebraska do it differently, but these are the actual results from the last election with Biden and Trump. You see the Republican candidate, Mr. Trump, wins Texas, wins Florida. Biden wins California and wins New York. Those big states aren't nearly as important as some of the states because we know Biden's going to win California. We know Trump is going to win Texas. That's a given because it's such a strong Republican state or a strong Democratic state. The states that we're looking at are what we call swing states. Another lesson on that later, like Ohio. In this last election, Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Virginia. These tend to be those states that if you win those, you're going to win. We know the Democrats are going to win the blue states. We know the Republicans are going to win the red states. Who wins the purple states, these swing states, determines who the next president is going to be. So when we get into looking at voter identification, or we look at which state leans left, which state leans right, you get these states that it's split about 50-50. That's the prize. So looking at that, going back to this elector, when you walk into the ballot box, and you guys obviously turning 18, you're going to be eligible in this next election. So you're going to go in there, you're going to see all these things, all the ballots. And when you're voting, what you're doing is you're voting for these electors. And these electors are not your reps and senators. They go to the Electoral College. It's not those people. It's other people. It's diehard party members, which we'll all explain here in a second. But the magic number is 270. Remember, there are, let's see, if it's numbers of reps and senators, obviously there are 435 reps in the House. There are 100 senators. That's 535. But then the District of Columbia gets 3 as well, even because they're not a state. But they get 3 because people live there. So that's 538. Well, you divide that by 2, you get 269. Well, 269 to 269 is a tie. You can't have a tie, so you have to get one more than half, which is 270. First person that wins gets to 270 electoral votes wins the election. And that's kind of how this works. And so these electors are, and it's just a weird situation. So let me back up just a second and say, who are these electors? I'm going to give you the example in this last election in Kansas. Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and just we're going to throw a third party in there as well, just to make my point. In the election in Kansas, the Republican Party of Kansas works together with the National Republican Party to pick 6 people in case Donald Trump wins. And they're going to pick 6 diehard Republicans, right? Joe Biden's team and the Democrats in Kansas are going to pick 6 diehard Democrats. Now, who are these diehard people? These are people that if your candidate wins the electoral vote or the popular vote in your state, there's no way they're going to vote for the other guy. Mayors, looking at party presidents, county commissioners, they're going to be diehard people. So we have the election of 2016. Each party has their 6 people. Obviously, Donald Trump wins Kansas. We're a fairly red state. So what happens? They had 6 people ready to go to the Electoral College. The Democrats had 6 people, a different 6 people ready to go to the Electoral College. Third party, Green Party, had 6 electors ready to go just in case they won. They're not going to win. So you have these people, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, 6 Green Party members. Who wins? Donald Trump wins. So what happens to the 6 people that the Democrats picked? What happens to the 6 people that the Green Party picked? What happens to them? Nothing. They go home. They don't get to go to the Electoral College. Only the 6 people that the winner picked gets to go to the Electoral College. And basically what that means is they go to Topeka, and so these 6 Republicans that the Republican Party picked, they go to Topeka, they cast their ballot, they put it in an envelope, and they mail it to Washington, D.C. That's how that whole process works. So each state does this. California, they had 55 Republicans picked. They had a different 55 Democrats picked and 55 Green Party, Libertarian Party, whatever, just in case their candidate won. Same process. Whoever wins, those 55 people they picked go to the Electoral College. They all then send these ballots in to Congress, and they're going to count these. So let's take a step back and let's look at a couple of maps, because this is fascinating. In this last election, the 2020 results by county, and you look at this map and you're thinking, holy cow, the Republicans, that was a landslide for Republicans. Look at all the red on the map. But that's not the best way to look at it, because how many people live in western Kansas? Land doesn't vote, people vote. So if you look at the reality of it, this is kind of a better representation of how these elections work. People vote, land doesn't vote. So all these places that are blank, people don't live there. If you look at the red dots, very strong Republican. Obviously in Kansas, if you're looking at this, Johnson County, Douglas County tend to be, if not blue, purple. Douglas County's blue. Johnson County's purple. It's been changing. But western Kansas is red, but there's not as many people. If you look at the population centers where people live, that's who votes. So the county map probably isn't the best way to look at it, but you can see in this last election, the only county that went for Biden is Douglas County. And we've talked about how liberal Douglas County is. That's where Lawrence is, KU. But every other county went for Trump in this last election. But if you look at the population, a lot of people in Johnson County did vote for Biden, but it's hard to compete with New York, LA, Chicago. So should candidates then just campaign in those states? Not necessarily. Remember we talked about the swing states, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. These are places where it's a purple bubble. That's where you're going to win. There's no way a Democrat's going to campaign in LA. They're going to win LA. There's no reason a Republican should campaign in Texas. They're going to win the state of Texas. So they don't need to go there. They need to go to those other places. So that's what we're going to talk about when we get to that unit. So what happens? Obviously, January 6th was this says 2017 because that's the last picture that we have of this actually happening. When Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton to become president in 2017, Joe Biden was then vice president. He had to count the electoral votes. And they have to be into D.C. by the 4th Wednesday in December, and they're going to be counted in the first week of January when the joint session of Congress comes in. And this then is the official basically saying, okay, we have now officially counted the votes. You are now officially the president-elect of the United States. Until that vote happens the first week of January, it's still up in the air. And this is what happened last time on January 6th. And it's not always January 6th. It's the first, it's just in that first week. Once that happens, then the new president then is sworn in on January 20th. But you guys know what happened last time was not good. We don't have photos of the then Vice President Mike Pence, because it's the insurrection, the people storming the Capitol kind of screwed everything over. So this becomes an issue, and we're going to talk more about this. How can we prevent it? Are we at this point in our country where we need to fix this system? If you look at the Electoral College and the way it works, obviously there are things wrong with it. There are suggestions to fix it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn you guys loose, and I'm going to have an assignment on Canvas. So hold on just a second. A couple of videos that I want you to watch about the Electoral College and flaws in the Electoral College and how to fix it. And then we're going to have an assignment where you reiterate what I just said and come up with your own idea as to how to fix the Electoral College. But once this video is over, if you go to Canvas, it'll all be there. But I want you guys to write questions down. I want you to think about all of this stuff with the Electoral College, with the insurrection, with everything's going to happen maybe in 2024, what's going on with the rhetoric right now, because I'm going to pick your brains on this. I want you to pay attention to what's going on. If you do, this class is going to be great, and I know you guys are going to do that. So until I return, hopefully you guys got something out of this, and I will see you when I get back. Thanks.